Here's the 1,000 we agreed on, son. Don't you worry, we're gonna make them faster than ever.
She's in rough shape, but we found her. This corrosion is deep, but we're gonna bring this legacy back to life.
And just like that, the windshield is free. It's incredible what careful leverage can do, even after all these years. The windshield seal is finally giving way. It's tough going, but every cut brings us closer to bringing this legacy back to life. Okay, the windshield is out. We'll label this clearly and store it safely in the glass rack. It's in surprisingly good condition. All right, the rear glass is finally out. We'll set it here next to the windshield for cleaning later.
Getting the driver's seat out is crucial for the full disassembly. It took some effort, but we finally broke the tension on the first bolt. This is the original wiring harness. As you can see, it's pretty delicate after all these years, so we're just carefully detaching the main connectors now.
All right, the hinges are completely seized up. Let's see if the impact wrench can break these free.
We use a wire hook here to hang the caliper from the coil spring, ensuring there's no stress on the rubber brake hose.
And there it is, the rotor finally came loose from the hub. It's completely shot, but we got it off. We've successfully removed the front bumper. Now we'll tag it and start assessing the damage to the frame. These control arm bolts are completely seized, but with enough torque, we can finally get the front suspension apart. There we go. Rear suspension arms tagged and secured. Meticulous organization is key to this restoration. So we're just clearing these lines for firewall access. I'm securing this harness, and then we'll label the main hose right here.
Next up is the wiring harness. We need to carefully disconnect every sensor before we can pull the engine out.
And there we have it. The gearbox is finally free from the block. Look at the state of that flywheel. Here you can see the valves from cylinder 1 and 2. We keep them organized so we don't mix up the intake and exhaust. All right, so the first step here is getting these shift linkages disconnected, followed by the main electrical harness. We want to be careful not to damage the clips. Next, we loosen the gearbox bolts. You want to follow the cross pattern sequence to ensure even pressure and avoid warping the casing.
Now we can carefully lift the output shaft assembly out of the casing and place it here next to the input shaft for closer inspection. The crankshaft is the heart of the engine. We're lowering it gently into the warm oil bath to loosen any remaining deep-seated grime before the final polish. Every single component is meticulously cleaned and organized. The chemical bath was a success. Now we move on to reassembly. All right, the main journal is sitting right at 2 1/4. Let's check the runout before we look at the specs. Once the cap is torqued and removed, we measure the compressed gauge against the scale to find the exact clearance. Using the micrometer and the bore gauge, we can determine the exact wear on these pistons before deciding on the rebuild specs. We're tightening the main cap bolts now. You want to make sure you hear that satisfying click. Time to install the numbered pistons. We carefully guide them in, making sure the connecting rods align perfectly with the crankshaft journals below. We're carefully lowering the new head gasket into place, making sure the alignment is perfect before we bring the cylinder head down. With the internals finally cleaned, we can start laying out the shafts and gears. Organization is key to a successful rebuild.
Perfect fit. That's exactly the kind of precision we need for this gearbox. Now we apply a thin, even bead of the orange gasket maker before carefully seating the second half of the casing.
With the solvent, we can finally see the bare metal underneath all this corrosion. It's a satisfying process.
Look at that finish. The shell is perfect, completely rust-free and straight. We're finally ready for paint. The paint coverage on these curves is exactly where we want it. The color match is flawless. All right, phase 10A. We're in the booth now, activating the heat lamps to cure the clear coat. This is where the magic happens. Now that the clear coat is cured, we do a final inspection, making sure the finish is absolutely flawless before the next stage. All right, phase 12, engine start and system check. We're looking for any leaks around these fittings. So far, everything looks completely dry and secure. Finally getting the panels aligned. The hood bolts go in smoothly, and the torque wrench confirms the setting.